everyone, I am Siddhi Raigandi from Jonalta Foundation School of Medicine. Today I am here to take the examination of lungs and chest. So before doing any examination, make sure you wash your hands properly and then begin with the examination. To begin with the examination, we will not directly move on to the examination techniques, but before we will review the anatomy and physiology of chest and lung. So we will start now. Place your finger in the hollow curve of suprasternal notch and move it downwards approximately 5 cm to the bony horizontal ridge where sternum and manubrium meets, that is sternal angle of Lewis. Directly adjacent to the sternal angle is second rib and its costal cartilage. From there, walk down the interspaces in an oblique line. Displace the breast laterally or palpate more medially in female patient. Avoid pressing too hard on the tender breast tissue. There is an alternative approach to this. Posteriorly, the 12th rib is the starting point for counting ribs and the intercostal spaces. With the fingers of one hand, press in and up against the lower border of the 12th rib and then walk up the intercostal spaces and follow a more oblique line up and around the front of the chest. Another important landmark is the inferior tip of the scapula, which usually lies at the level of 7th rib or interspace. This will help to palpate the interspaces more prominently. Ask the patient to flex his neck forward and the most protruding processes, that is C7 and T1, will be prominent. From there you can palpate and count the processes below them. Now check for the circumference of the text. Visualize a series of vertical lines. The one shown here is mid-clavicular line. Next one is anterior axillary line. Next, mid-axillary line and posterior axillary line. Posteriorly, the vertebral line overlies the spinous processes of the vertebra and scapular line drops from the inferior angle of scapula. Now picture the lungs and their fissures and the lobes. Anteriorly, the apex of each lung rises approximately 2 to 4 cm above the inner third of the clavicle. The inner border of the lung crosses the 6th rib at the mid-clavicular line and 8th rib at the mid-axillary line. Posteriorly, the lower border of the lung lies about the level of T10 spinous processes. The right lung is divided into 3 lobes and the left lung has 2 lobes. It is divided by oblique fissure and the right lung has one more fissure, that is the horizontal fissure, which crosses a 4th rib and meets the oblique fissure in the mid-axillary line near the 5th rib. There are some general anatomical terms used to locate chest findings. Supraclavicular, that is above the clavicles. Infraclavicular, that is below the clavicles. Interscapular, that is between the scapulae. Infrascapular, that is below the scapulae. The base of the lungs, that is the lowermost portion of the lungs. Moving on to the tracheobronchial tree. Breath sounds over the trachea and bronchi have harsher quality than those over the denser lung parenchyma. The trachea bifurcates into the main stem at the level of sternal angle anteriorly and posteriorly T4 spinous process. The main right bronchus is wider, shorter, and more vertical than the left main bronchus because it directly enters the hilum. The left main bronchus extends inferolaterally from the aortic arch and enters the hilum of the lung. The lung has two continuous pleural surfaces. The visceral pleura covers the outer surface of the lungs and the parietal pleura lines the pleural cavity. Here, the visceral pleura lacks sensory nerves, but the parietal pleura is richly innervated by intercostal and phrenic nerves. Now, the principal muscle for inspiration is the diaphragm, and abdominal muscles assist in the expiration. There are some concerning symptoms you should ask the patient about if he has chest pain, wheezing, cough, dyspnea, hemoptysis, or any disordered sleep. Observe the rate, rhythm, depth, and effort of breathing. Normally, a person breathes 20 times per minute. If it is more than 25 breaths per minute, it is tachypnea and can be likelihood of pneumonia and cardiac disease. Inspect the lips and the nails for the cyanosis, which may signal hypoxia. And if the patient's color is pallor, it may be mostly from heart failure. Listen for any audible sounds while the patient is breathing, any high pitched sound or stridor. Observe the shape of the chest, which is normally wider. The ratio of antero-posterior diameter to the lateral chest diameter is usually zero point 0.7 up to zero point 0.9 and increases with aging. Inspect the neck for the contraction of accessory muscles, namely sternocleidomastoid muscle and scalene muscles or supraclavicular retraction. During expiration, look for any contraction of intercostal or abdominal oblique muscles. Lastly, check if the trachea is in the midline. A sequence must be followed while examining the chest. Maybe it is posterior chest or anterior chest. That is, first one, inspect, palpate, percuss, and then auscultate. Standing in the midline position behind the patient, note the shape of the chest and how the chest moves. Inspect for any deformities, any abnormal muscle retraction, or any impaired respiratory movement. While palpating, focus on the areas of tenderness or bruising, respiratory expansion, and fremitus. Identify the tender areas. Carefully palpate areas where the patient reports any pain or has visible lesions or bruises. Assess any skin abnormalities or sinus tracts. No pains? No. Okay. So now, can you breathe in? Test for chest expansion. Place your thumbs at the level of 10th ribs with your fingers closely grasping and parallel to the lateral rib cage. Watch the distance between your thumbs as they move apart during inspiration and feel for the range and symmetry of the rib cage as it expands and contracts. This movement is called lung excrusion. Now, palpate both the lungs for symmetric tactile fremitus. Fremitus refers to palpable vibrations that are transmitted through bronchopulmonary tree. To detect fremitus, use the either ball, the bony part of the palm at the base of the fingers, or the ulnar surface of your hand to optimize the vibratory sensitivity of the bones in your hand. Ask the patient to repeat the words 99. 99, 99, 99. Moving on to the percussion, which is the most important technique of the physical examination, because the percussion sets the chest wall and underlying tissues in motion, producing audible sound and palpable vibrations. Hyperextend the middle finger of your hand, which is called pleximeter finger. Press its distal interphalangeal joint firmly on the lung surface to be percussed. Note that the thumb and the second, fourth, and fifth fingers are not touching the chest wall. With a quick, sharp, but relaxed wrist, strike with using the tip of the fleximeter finger and not the finger pad. The goal here is to transmit vibrations through the bones of this joint to the underlying chest wall. Ask the patient to keep both the arms crossed in front of the chest and then percuss the thorax. Percuss one side of the chest, then the other at the each level in ladder-like pattern. Identify the diaphragmatic excrusion and determine the level of diaphragmatic dullness during quiet respiration. Holding the pleximeter finger above and parallel to expected level of dullness, percuss down in progressive steps. Auscultation again is the most important examination for assessing airflow through the tracheobronchial tree. Auscultation involves listening to the sounds generated by breathing, listening for any adventitious sounds, or if abnormalities are suspected, listening to the sounds of the patient's spoken or whispered voice as they are transmitted through the chest. Listen to the breath sounds with the diaphragm of your stethoscope after instructing the patient to breathe deeply through an open mouth. Use again the ladder pattern which we used during the percussion, moving from one side to the other and comparing symmetric areas of the lungs. Listen to at least one full breath in each location. If you hear or suspect abnormal sounds, auscultate adjacent areas to assess the extent of any abnormality. Listen to the pitch, intensity, and duration of the inspiratory and expiratory sounds. There are usually four normal breath sounds: the vesicular, the bronchovesicular, bronchial, and tracheal sounds. Vesicular sounds are soft, low pitched, and heard over almost both lungs. The inspiratory sound lasts longer than the expiratory sounds. In bronchovesicular breath sound, the intensity and pitch of the sound is intermediate and often heard in first and second interspaces anteriorly and between the scapulae. The inspiratory and expiratory sounds are almost equal. Bronchial sounds are louder, harsher, and higher in pitch, with a short silence between inspiratory and expiratory sounds. Here, expiratory sounds last longer than inspiratory sounds. Tracheal sounds are harsh and heard over the trachea in the neck. There may be some additional or adventitious breath sounds that can be heard or superimposed on the breath sounds. They are mainly classified as crackles, also called rales, wheezes, and rhonchi. If abnormally heard, bronchovesicular and bronchial breath sounds assist transmitted voice sound using three techniques below. In egophony, ask the patient to say E. You will normally hear a muffled long E sound. If E sounds like A and has nasal bleating quality, this egophony is present. In bronchophony, ask the patient to say 99. Normally, the sounds transmitted through the chest wall are muffled and indistinct. Louder voice sounds are called bronchophony.
99, 99, 99, 99, 99, 99.
Last is whispered pectoriloquy. Ask the patient to whisper 99 or 1, 2, 3.
One, two, three, one, two, three, one, two, three, one.
The whispered voice is normally heard faintly and indistinctly. If you hear louder, clearer whisper sounds, this is called whispered pectoriloquy. Okay, you can stop. While inspecting anterior chest, the patient should be in supine position and should lie comfortably with the arms somewhat abducted. The sequence will be the same what we did in the posterior chest examination. Starting with the inspection, observe the shape of the patient's chest and the movement of the chest wall. Note any deformities, abnormal retraction of lower intercostal spaces, or local lag or impairment in respiratory movement. Palpate the chest for any tender areas and assess the bruising, sinus tracts, or any skin changes. Does it pain?
No.
Look for chest expansion. Place your fingers along each costal margin, your hands along the lateral rib cage. Ask the patient to inhale deeply and observe how far your thumbs diverge as the thorax expands and feel for the symmetry. Now, checking for the tactile fremitus, compare both sides of the chest using ball or ulnar surface of your hand. Fremitus is usually decreased or absent over the precordium.
99,
While examining a female patient, gently displace the breast as necessary.
99, 99.
Again, percuss the lateral and anterior chest comparing both sides. The heart normally produces an area of dullness to the left of the sternum from the third to fifth interspaces. Palpate and percuss in the latter pattern as we did in the posterior chest examination. In women, to enhance percussion, gently displace the breast with your left hand while percussing with the right hand or ask the patient to move it for you. As you progress downward, percuss for liver dullness and gastric tympany. While auscultating, listen to the chest anteriorly and laterally as the patient breathes with the open mouth and somewhat more deeply than normal. Listen to the breath sounds, which are usually louder in the upper anterior lung fields. Identify any adventitious sounds. Auscultate using the similar pattern as we used in the percussion and extending it to the adjacent areas. Say 99.
99, 99, 99.
Note down your findings and try to use phrases. That is, thorax was symmetric, good expansion, lungs were resonant, vesicular breath sounds, no crackles, wheezes, rhonchi,